Grandmas are our treasure.
My name's Nadia Natali. I have been married for 40 years. I have 3 children and a stepson. We have 9 grandchildren. I ended up studying dance therapy, got my master's at Hunter College. I loved dance and I loved therapy, and the two just came together. I did not really enjoy what I was trained to do. It didn't come from my heart, and I wanted to find a way to work with it, and I didn't at the time. Once I got pregnant, I didn't want to be in that atmosphere holding a child. And so for a number of years, I let that go. At the time our kids became teenagers, I went to hear a man named Peter Levine, who is an expert in trauma, somatic experiencing. It's an odd name for something. And I went to hear him in Ojai, and I was so taken. That night, I said, okay, I have to do this training. And I did a 3-year training in somatic experiencing, working with people, learning to work with people with trauma. But what was interesting is that offered me, I sort of call it a trump card in my pocket, something I knew. Once I was working with that, I knew I could work with anybody, anywhere. It sort of gave me a confidence that I didn't know I didn't have, but that I got. And at that point, I suddenly decided to work with my dance therapy work. Something came to me when I was sitting one day meditating. A whole workshop just came down, I downloaded. And I have been doing that now for 15 years. Once a month, I have a day-long dance therapy. I call it dance medicine workshops. I would say the biggest aspect that women have is their ability to feel. And because of that, they are more integrated than I would say a lot of men. I'm sorry. They are interested in what they're experiencing as well as what they're thinking. And a lot of us have been trained in I'd say a very masculine way. We've been educated to think and to develop our thinking process. And I don't want to say anything is wrong with that, except that it leaves out a very important aspect of our life, and that is the feeling, and the experiencing, which is, I'm going to sort of say that as synonymous, because if we can understand or experience or acknowledge what we're experiencing, we will actually be feeling what that experience is as it's happening. That is huge. That is where we actually have our morality. Morality comes from that, not from what we think and what we've been told. It comes from what we feel is happening in the moment. And if we're truly in touch with that, then we can act from that place in a much deeper, much more healing way. Well, first of all, I will say that I grew up in a very psychologically oriented family. And I learned from a lot of people in my family who went into therapy how much they went into their story. And I was a relatively happy child in a very difficult family, and I don't know why, but when I became a teenager, I became very, very, very depressed. And I wanted to understand what that was all about, and I got no answers, or the answers that were offered didn't touch me. And I even went into therapy, I studied psychology, it was just more information being added to more information, nothing went in. And then when I met my husband to be, the day we met, and he was introduced to me, his sister and I were very close friends, and she introduced us, and we met The first day we met, we started talking about, or he started talking about Krishnamurti and what it had done for him, understanding what Krishnamurti said, which really had to talk about the thinking mechanism and how we take reality, we believe reality is what we think. And if you're caught in that, it just takes you anywhere and everywhere and away from the truth of the moment. And I listened to this guy, it was like, oh my God. Something went in, clink. And I knew that there was hope. And I knew that I had a place to work from for the first time in my life. It was very, very profound. Something opened. I can't even describe what it is. My heart opened. Let's say that, okay? And in that, I moved into what I would call a very wholesome existence. Wholesome. That word is an interesting word. And I felt integral with the trust of whom I was as a human being. And it's taken many, many years, but I realized that I am, and you have to hear this in the right way, I am the utmost authority of being a human being. There's no one else who can tell me better, just because I'm a human being, and that right is everyone else's. I don't mean I am the biggest authority. I am the only authority for myself. And I have been developing that for all these years, and it was the trust that I got from that hope. I will allude to some very challenging experiences that I have had. The biggest one was the loss of my son. We were here on our property. We have to cross 2 rivers to get here. And it was winter, and we had had a lot of rain, an unusual amount of rain, and storms were coming up. And we left our property with our son, who was 20, here, and with our daughter and her husband. She had 2 children at the time, 8 months pregnant with her 3rd. And we said to them, we are going to be going into classes today. There is a good chance that there may be a really bad storm. There had been, and if that's the case, just stay put. And if we don't get back, we will come back in the next few days. We had lots of food. We're prepared for these things all the time. This is normal for us. And yes, indeed, the rains came in torrents. And it turned out that our son heard from a friend and asked, he was going to go out to visit, to go see her. He tried to cross the river and didn't make it. My daughter called me in Santa Barbara and said, we don't know where Andre is. We don't know if he made it out. And I said, did you call the police? And they said, yes. And the search and rescue crew are coming in. So I went to find Enrico and said, you have to come home. We couldn't get in. I was waiting at a neighbor's house down there to hear whether they could find him or not. And as I was waiting, there's this intense, horrible feeling that you go through of you don't know what's happening. And I started to dance. Unbelievable what came out of my body and what came out of my voice to handle that which was impossible to handle. And one of the sheriffs started to call 911. They thought I was losing it. And Enrico said, no, she's fine. This is okay. This is how she will handle something, and she's fine. What helped me through the rest, as you know, as time went on, I don't know if I even have an answer to that. I have a very strong relationship with my husband, and that and our land here and what we've created has been such a kind of a healing place that held me, just, you know, like a little, you know, nest. I felt held. Whatever, I don't know, that sense of trust in, you can fill in the blank, was a holding for me. That's so deep that maybe all the work we've been doing, you know, has given me what I needed at that moment. You know, the support of the people and the love, and I mean, all of this has to do with relationship. It all has to do with relationship. That's what holds one. And I think, you know, when you ask about what women have to offer, it's relationship. It's all that really, really matters.